this will
Well,
be.
hey.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourselves while we're here, so we do want our audience.
Yes,
What's
yes.
your name?
My name is Shay Gambrell. I came over with my husband from Athens for this. It's my first time at Siege. I have a background in journalism, actually, which was really interesting. I don't know of this. I don't know if is it a publication or a website or?
All the Confusion is it's a website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds very interesting. Can't wait to check it out. I'm relatively new to gaming, past 3 or 4 years maybe.
Come on in.
Yay,
Bring more
people.
people.
You guys want water?
Yeah, we
Yes,
do.
please.
Oh, they're just delivering water.
Start grabbing random people. People that look
Yeah.
slightly asleep that have the badge.
Everybody's playing Munchkins. They can like, get
Sir.
away from it.
All munchkins.
So UGA journalism school?
No, I went to University of Alabama and worked at several newspapers way long time ago in
Yeah.
my sort of previous life, and I do several different jobs now. I'm an administrator actually for a Unitarian Universalist church in
Okay.
Athens. So part of my interest in gaming is to think about serious games, health science games, specifically around sex education, because I have sort of also probably self-identify as a radical feminist, so I have a lot of ideas about how to make porn better and incorporate that into video games and things like that. So that's sort of one aspect. And my husband's a composer and a musician, and he is also way techier than I am, so he's doing some computer science as he finishes his music degree and kind of trying to think about what he might want to do.
Right.
He's also done a lot of Drupal web development stuff, so he may want to go that way and just do composition stuff on the side. So anyway, this is our first year here.
Yeah.
We're really psyched. We're kind of like exuberant newbies, and
Oh, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
welcome.
yeah.
What about yourself?
My name's Carter Maddox. I'm a game designer. I'm a student over at Southern Poly. I'm currently experiencing an overabundance of passion. I know I want to be a game designer. I've known that for a long time, but I'm having a hard time trying to figure out what sort of games I want to focus on, because it's like one day I'll be like oh, I really want to work on educational games for health, and next day I'll be like, oh, but I really want to work on these like serious art games, and the next day is be like, oh, but like these shooters are so much fun to work on, and they'll be like, oh, but 2D platformers are kind of making a comeback, and so I really don't know where I want to go, because I kind of want to be everywhere.
Yeah.
I hear you on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically why I got into to the game.
What are you, Charlie Hawkins?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Real quick. My name is Charlie Hawkins. I am the founder and lead editor of Alter Confusion. Alter Confusion is an independent video game news and review website. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Charlie.
You're awake.
Been awake.
Okay. I started the company in 2007. This is just for passion. It's not for profit. I have had 3 different jobs while doing Alter Confusion. Currently, I am a technical writer for a website creation firm that focuses on HOAs.
Okay.
So in my free time, I review video games, do news, I do conferences. This is my 6th conference this year, 5th one giving this actual speech. Once upon a time, I thought that we were going to be one of the big dogs, become the next GameSpot or IGN or something, and then that reality came crashing in about 3 years into the whole process. I'm like, you know what? There's 30,000 sites that are just like that. So we've changed our focus to put independent games first. If an independent developer wants us to test their game or to review the game, we drop everything to review their game and then throw up. I mean, we thoroughly try. I'm not a completionist. I don't want to get like 100%, but I want to get through the game as much as I think is necessary, and then I'll write the review. The majority of the reviews on the website are me. I had that wonderful situation of, I had a bunch of passion in 2007, and everyone's like, oh yeah, let's help. And they quickly silenced because they're like, well, I've got all this other stuff to do.
Oh, getting people to do things for no money is
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
hilariously interesting.
So the majority of the website is me. Sometimes I do kind of overstretch myself. At one point, I was doing a podcast, a video cast, a 5-time-a-week webcomic. I was reviewing 4 games a month and writing 2 to 3 articles a day. And then after about 5 or 6 months of that, I literally crashed.
Yeah.
And then, so I've pulled back a lot. I want to go back to the webcomic. We just have a video cast now. We don't have a podcast. And then I try to review as many games as possible, but not at the speed I was going at, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Blake Lewin. I am currently president of Atlanta Game Cooperative, and the goal of the cooperative is to bring work-for-hire game development here to the state, specifically to the Atlanta area, so that young developers can make money while they work on their passion, which is the games that they want to build. But the state is currently bleeding a lot of talent from Georgia Tech and SCAD and Southern Poly, and if they want to do games, they need to leave the state and they need to go to the West Coast or to New York. So Atlanta Game Cooperative is about bringing the work here so that people can stay here and work here, and we'll make Atlanta the game hub that it should be. Yeah. So prior to that, I was at Trans Gaming, where I built a service called Game Tree TV, where for smart televisions, and before that I was at Turner for 16 years building interactive entertainment systems, a product called Game Tap, which was a broadband distribution channel for retro games, and so I've been in the industry for a long time.
I actually applied to Game Tap. I had a face-to-face interview there.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Who did you interview with, you know, remember?
I can't remember, but it was more for the hardware side. I was going to help build the machines to run the stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, very good.
Yeah. I did leave out. I was once upon a time in the game industry. I was part of a company called Blue Heat Games, based right here in Atlanta, Georgia.
So Marcus Matthews?
Yes. Yeah, I have some interesting things about Marcus, but I'm gonna.
He actually worked for me when we were Turner New Media,
Uh-huh.
and he started out his game career there.
Yeah, so I was a developer. I was a junior developer, and also a QA tester. I made a bunch of side projects for Matthew Marcus while I was there. Unfortunately, none of them saw. Well, one of them might have seen the light of day, but they changed out all the art, so I can't tell.
And actually, Ken Leitner is actually one of my neighbors.
Oh, I know Ken very well too.
I'll bet.
Yeah. So let's get into the heart of the matter. The destruction of the game industry as we know it. I put that title out there because I know for shock value, because everyone's like, oh my God, like you, who wants to get into the industry, and you're like, I'm so passionate about the industry. Why the hell would you say it's being destroyed? Quick answer, it's not like a complete destruction. It's more of a partial destruction. What I mean by that is that you got your AAA titles, your publishers who are unfortunately looking for the bottom line. And so for your Xboxes and your PlayStations, creativity is almost dead. You've got you're basically seeing reboots and sequels. I mean, that's really what it is. And then I hate to say this, but I think that the path that we're about to take for these major consoles is we're going to go, and this kills me because I love story. Oh God, do I love story. But you're going to go to a more multiplayer only aspect because it's cheaper. You get your core mechanics in there, you throw in a couple of different game modes, and then you throw 6 or 8 multiplayer maps out the door. You just saved yourself hundreds of millions of dollars because you don't have to worry about cutscenes, voice acting, scripting for your NPCs. You don't need to make sure that, because it's a map, if you have a couple glitches that people find it, then you can just release a small patch, done. And here's the beautiful thing, because it's so, you could get it out so fast, and people of course will play the crap out of it because people love playing against each other, then you can make more. You've got an amazing revenue stream with DLC, be it guns, skins, which I would never buy. I don't understand why you want, the smiley face armor, especially in a tactical game. I mean, smiley face is going to stick out like a sore thumb. And then of course more maps, and that's it. Now an interesting thing has happened. You have these two huge markets. You've got the AAA titles, which are on the Xbox and the PlayStation, then you've got the indies. The indies are amazing, but they have no skills to market. A lot of people, including a lot of companies, including the Ouya, which I've been a champion of this entire year. I've shown it so many times, and it just bugs me to no end that they don't. It's like they don't even support their own product. But the Ouya,
Yeah.
the Ouya is an Android-based gaming console.
Okay,
It's literally about that big.
They
okay.
have a couple of them over. In
Yeah,
the
they
next
have
couple.
in the corner in the next room. They've got one.
Yeah, if you hear
um,
that screaming, it's coming from one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I set
How
my
do you
camera
spell
all
it?
Ouya.
Okay, thank you.
And then of course there's the Game Stick that just came out, which is actually really cool as well. I was kind of, I don't know too much about the Game Stick except for the portability portion of it. I mean, it's literally like,
So I was hoping to have a game stick here for you, but I brought, this is a new console right here. I had to put tape over because I'm consulting with this company and can't say who it is. But you can see that, you know, we've gone from big, you know, set-top boxes for gaming consoles down to basically an HDMI Android dongle. If you look at what Google's doing with Google Chromecast, all the Google Play games are going to be playable on that. You'll use your cell phone to do this. So as Charlie's saying, the industry is changing. It's not so much being destroyed as in it will never exist. It's being rebuilt through digital. So the existing players are having a hard time figuring out how they compete, and they're sticking to the tried and true, which is the AAA titles. Again, a lot like the film industry did, right? And so you get your remakes and your franchises, and you just keep making the heck out of them and making a lot of money. But all the creativity that's happening is happening underneath of that. So there's a very, very fertile field of indies or just people that are disillusioned and trying to do other stuff. And because of new digital distribution methods, there's an opportunity for those people to get seen and heard. But to Charlie's point is it's a lot more difficult to get seen and heard because of the bulk of stuff that's coming out.
well, one of the beautiful things is that we're at a point where there are just so many different platforms, and because of the digital distribution, it's really easy for you to get your game on those as long as you know the coding, the backing, because you don't have to worry about boxes. You don't have to worry about renting shelf space in a brick and mortar store or in like an Amazon store. It's all digital. So it's kind of evening out the playing field, which is I'm actually really interested to see how the publishers take it as we go more and more digital. I know that there are a lot of people out there who are going, oh my God, I always need my disc. PC's been doing this for years. I mean, Steam is a perfect example. There's a digital distribution system in place. I have not bought a PC game, a physical PC game in 3 years now. And now, of course, when you flip it, I mean, you're just used to getting those discs, the little boxes for your Xbox 360 and your PlayStation 3. But I'll be very interested to see how the publishers do a migration when you go more digital, because the publishers are there to help the marketing, to pay for that rental space, to pay for the manufacturing of the discs and whatnot, and then of course also to throw money in front to back the project. And that of course is the flip side. If you want to have secured money, then you make a AAA title, and you probably are going to make a game that is just an iteration. Or if you go indie, then you've got to come up with your own money stream. One of the large misconceptions, and now I think people are really understanding it, is Kickstarter. Kickstarter, you're not going to make money. You will always lose money with Kickstarter, but Kickstarter can get you way closer. The majority of the money that you get from Kickstarter is swag. It's your T-shirts, it's your stickers, your pins, your sign posters. If you pay high enough, your character in the game, you get to have lunch with one of the game developers, whatever. That's all built into there. One of the individuals who's actually here, his name is Burton Posey. He's the head of Addo Games. He had the Kickstarter for Robots Love Ice Cream, and he said that basically, you know, he got it almost right with all the Kickstarter, but he still had to pay. I think he's at $1,800 over now. So, you know, I mean, he still made, you know, a ton of money, but the thing is, you never know all the setbacks, the graphical setbacks, the coding setbacks. And a lot of people think, oh, it's easy, you know, we'll just go Kickstarter, we'll make a bunch of money, and then we'll throw our product out there, everyone will love it. Two things wrong. One, you're never gonna make money off it. Two, this is something that a lot of independents fall victim to, and the Ouya has fallen victim to, and I hope the GameStick doesn't, but I have a funny feeling that they're going to do it as well. As soon as your product is done, the product will speak for itself. No, that will never work. That will never work. You need marketing. Once your product is done, you're a third of the way there. You need to market the crap out of it. You need people to talk about it. You need to throw it up on websites. The hard part is now there. And oh man, my brain just went.
That's okay. Well, part of the illusion of digital distribution is that now everybody can get in. And I mean, that's not an illusion. Anybody can get in and get their game out there. The problem is that the role that publishers played was to get you above the fray. You know, Justin Bieber might have been discovered on YouTube, but he didn't become a star because of YouTube. I mean, he became a star because of good old-fashioned marketing, PR, and just promoting the heck out of it. So it's the same. I mean, the games industry is an entertainment industry, just like music, just like TV, just like movies, and all the rules of a hits-driven business exist.
Yep.
So while these new digital distribution methods are great, people's attention spans are still the same as they've ever been, and you've got to get in front of them. And so having different ways of getting in front of people and promoting your game is very, very important.
I agree. One of the things I just remembered was going back to Kickstarter, is that when you are in charge, when you or your team is in charge of finances, you have to make gosh darn sure that you're going to be really close. One of the worst examples, or best examples, depending on how you look at it, is Double Fine Adventures. They raised $3.8 million, which was way above their $400,000 that they were asking for. When they surpassed that goal, they started adding features. Oh, this would be cool, this would be cool, this would be cool, this would be cool. And they basically locked the finance person out of the room. They're like, oh, let's throw this in, we could do this, we could do that. And then they're completely out of money. The game was supposed to release this year. There'll be an early alpha build in 2014. And here's the dirty practice that a lot of companies are starting to do. They're gonna go to Steam. They're going to give you the alpha release, pay full price for the game, and you'll get early release to actually see the game evolve. Sounds cool, but at the same time, it's you automatically red flags need to be going. You know, it needs to be going off, going, oh my God, this is bad. Because if you don't get enough attention, they're still screwed.
Yeah. So, when you guys read the title, what was your interest in the destruction of the game industry? What did you want to walk away with?
And I apologize for being late. I was going to make a joke and what did we miss? But basically, this is both of you. Charlie, because I know, and thought it would be interesting. It just caught me. And once I heard you were going to be here too, you know, so forth, just felt like hearing what you guys had to say. And I assume that you guys are facetious on some level, but you're going to talk about how hopefully it's changing.
That's right.
Some of the rules are changing, etc. And that's what I figured I'd hear.
Well, that's good. And
Nice
it was. And
projection.
Charlie started off saying that it was, you know, a bit tongue in cheek. to say the destruction, and hopefully a little bit of a marketing ploy to get people in here. Obviously, it kind of worked. But
I want to hear the description of the phoenix bird that's going to rise from the ashes.
yeah, and it is. I mean, if you look at what's happening with the games industry right now, and again, I relate it back to any other media industry. You'll see it. I've got this great chart when I talk about the music industry. If 1999, the music industry looked like, and you couldn't have lost. It got this huge growth. And then Napster happened, and then you have this unbelievable slide down. And even with digital coming up, it still hasn't surpassed where the music industry used to be. In other words, the digital sales do not add to the falling physical retail sales and make the same industry. It's still less than it was, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. And the game industry in particular, I don't know what that sound is. All these creative
I think there's
noises.
a music thing.
It must be. But if you look at, and you know, we can hold Steve Jobs up as a god because he did, I mean, I know no one that has so many disruptive platforms in a single career. And the unspoken nature of the iPhone was that it disrupted the game industry in a way that was not intentional. If you go back to when you see Steve Jobs talk about the App Store, which came out the next year after the iPhone, came after the iPhone, he actually thought that they were going to need funding to have people build applications for the phone. But what happened is everybody started developing for it, and it was a lot of crap. But out of that crap came some really amazing products and the disruption of the game industry. I mean, the PSP and the Vita are basically non-existent because who needs it if you have an iPhone or now an Android device? So that in and of itself not only disrupted the game industry and just totally changed mobile gaming, but it also broadened the audience for gaming and expanded. Yeah, did you want to ask this?
Well, I just wanted to, because you were talking about the PSP and the Vita being non-existent, which they are, but the 3DS has managed to gain a fairly significant hold, actually a lot bigger than a lot of early theorists thought that it would. So I wanted to see if I could get your comment on that, why you think that that's been able to get hold in the day of the App Store.
Well, first off, where the 3DS grabbed hold was in kids whose parents aren't going to give them an iPhone. I mean, and it's an easy, convenient device, and Nintendo has always owned that piece of the market, and I don't expect that they go away. I mean, the Wii did the same thing. Right?
Well, okay, so two things. One, I think Nintendo's days of being on the console are numbered. But the handheld, the reason why it's still got that, you know, that death grip on mobile, there in my mind there's two reasons. One is the kids. It's kid friendly. The parents can get it to them, and they don't have to worry about their kids having constant connection to the internet and running up the bill of these free to play with freemium games. Where their credit card's in there. Second of all, they have an amazing license that just won't die in Pokemon. And as long as they keep coming out with Pokemon, Nintendo is still gonna, you know, because it's this weird, you know, cultural thing. You've got to catch them all every single freaking time. I keep falling victim. I'm like, I don't want to catch them all. I don't want to play this game. But somehow I keep ending up with this stupid game on my system. And then another big title for me is Professor Layton. I mean,
that makes me cry.
If Professor Layton, the thing is, Professor Layton could exist on so many different platforms, especially any touch screen. You know, if you put it on the iPad, I would be there in a heartbeat. And they actually came out with a game called The Layton Brothers, which is kind of like a detective mystery game, which is actually a lot of fun, but just doesn't have that Professor Layton puzzle solving aspect.
Yeah, see, I hate the puzzle end of Layton. I mean, I think it's gorgeous art, but I think they blow it on the puzzles in a way that can be easily fixed for them, and they could make a replayable game as opposed to you go through it once and you're on their next thing. So
well, they did start
a lot of old puzzles that exist in books, and
right.
That's all they do. So.
Right. Well, they did start doing a was it a puzzle a week? They would release, which was kind of cool. But you're right. You're right. There's the playability was kind of shot.
Like the matchstick puzzles when they show you. I mean,
Yeah,
they've been around for years and they
Yep.
don't really do anything original in a sense there.
yeah.
But the game does look gorgeous, and I do like their stories and the way they, feed it. But
Mhm.
I'm sitting there going, I need to find an artist, the right artist, and somebody that backs me for that. But
And going back to the PSP, the UMD format was a mistake. The constant were, you could never play games silently. And speaking of the Vita, I don't know, I'm gonna be honest, I have not kept up with this, but for a time, Sony was basically saying that all PlayStation 4 games have to have remote playability on the PS Vita. First of all, I don't know anyone who has a Vita. Second of all, if you're forcing that as a requirement for all developers, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, well, it's crazy because not everyone has a Vita. And also, what is your definition of remote playability? Are we talking full 1080p? Because there's a huge bottleneck. Because the PS Vita has 3G. There's no way in hell. And a lot of people are like, oh, will it be on your home network? Well, if it's on my home network, I'm playing on my TV. And also, there's still there's still a bottleneck.
The last information I saw on that from the Sony releases was that it had to do something with the Vita, but you didn't necessarily have to be able to play the full game.
Mhm.
It might just be like a side game or something. It just
But these are embedded players desperately trying to figure out why they missed what happened
Yep.
with the iPhone. Then you move towards game streaming, which is made popular by OnLive and their demise and their rebirth. So talk about the Phoenix there, but also with Gaikai. So Gaikai, does everybody know what game streaming is? Where you're basically
from the
playing.
cloud, right?
Yeah, you're playing the game in the cloud. It's coming right out of the GPU and being encoded in real time. So you're actually playing the game on a server somewhere, and then your return path is your keystrokes or your controller. So it's the Netflix model for games. It's not very scalable right now, and right now it's just kind of repackaging games in terms of making them available instantly to play.
But they still download the entire game.
No,
right?
not at all. You never own the game. You never have the game. It is literally on a server that you are playing, and you're watching the video of you play that on whatever device you're.
How does the delay happen? I'm missing. They must download enough that
No.
you're.
There's no download at all. It's a client. It is literally a video stream that you're watching, and you're playing yourself, or you're watching yourself play it on the server somewhere, hopefully within less than 1,000 miles.
So how does a lag? I mean, how do they handle like?
Yep.
shitting
So
people?
you have to have a very low latency connection. You have to have very, very fast encoding. You have to have no buffering of
Okay.
video,
Okay.
and it's doable. I mean, you can download OnLive and do it. But what Sony did is they bought Gaikai for $380 million, and so Gaikai is going to be the back end of the PS4's backwards compatibility. So no more will you have any PS3 or PS2 or PS1 discs. You'll be playing all those games emulated on servers in the cloud through your PS4. So my point on that is that while that's interesting technically, it's nothing more than a broadcast model for video games.
Right.
What is interesting is the ability to create games that now are, 20, 30, 40 gigabytes big, that you never have to have, and you can now play these amazing things and never have to worry about your computer being big enough or fast enough or rapid enough. So those are another move towards the changes that will create disruption in the industry, but ultimately lead to a better, more fuller gaming life.
Well, I think one of the things that people are going to have to wrap their heads around is that this concept of game ownership. Everyone who has the hard copy of the game, they think, I own this game. You own the right to play the game. And when you remove the disc out of the equation, you go more digital, and then you go to game streaming, that really starts freaking out certain people, because let's say that game stream service disappears. Then where'd my money go? Because I no longer have access to it. But
That's why the big guys win in that area.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about that on iTunes. Nobody cares about that on the big guys. It's just the smaller guys getting traction that have that problem, right?
Right.
So it leads to different business models, right? So you can have subscription. When I created GameTap for Turner back in 2003, the whole point of that was we created a stream. So we didn't have game streaming. And that we actually had a client, you actually downloaded the game, and you download as much as you could before, you had to download the whole thing so you could play it fast. But basically the model was that we were creating for the games industry what the TV industry already had, is a ancillary market. If you look at the movie industry, everybody said, oh, the games industry is as big as the movie industry. But it only looked at box office. And it's true, the games industry is as big as film box office. So it's 24 billion, whatever it is this year. The thing is that a film only makes 24% of its revenue in box office. The rest of it is DVD, pay TV, airlines, licensing, syndication on cable, et cetera, et cetera. The games industry has never had that. So you got a game out there in retail, you put it in the store, you sold it. If it didn't sell within 3 months, it was in the discount bin for another 3 months, and then it was gone forever.
Right.
So with digital distribution now, we actually have what the other industries have always had. You can go turn on the radio and listen to music from the 60s and the 70s. You couldn't do that with video games. Now you
got
can.
the long tail now.
Exactly. So all those elements come together to make more availability of gaming, broadening of an audience for gaming, and ultimately, when I give these talks and I say, who's a gamer? And I go into non-gamer crowds, I get, you raise your hand, and maybe you raise your hand, you raise your hand, you definitely raise your hand. But then I say, okay, who has an iPhone and who's playing games on the iPhone? And everybody raises their hand. Everybody's a gamer. And games go back, to the beginning of time. So it is a universal medium.
I was going to talk about, or to go back to the digital distribution, getting away from physical games and that sort of thing. Going back to the Xbox One conversation.
Yes.
Of their original business model and the way that it freaked out players. And Microsoft, to me, has always been a way of, they have great ideas, they just don't know how to tell you about them. They tell you all the bad stuff, they leave all that good stuff out that they really should tell you. And then they went back and reverted back to the physical things.
Right.
And because of the outrage, what's your opinion on their original business model? It seems to me like Steam in a lot of ways was not a great business model to begin with, and it grew into something that is now a giant. And I think that's what they were trying to do. They just didn't get there, So do you think they'll be bringing that business model back soon, or do you think at all?
Change scares people, and unfortunately, to be honest with you, Sony probably had the exact same thing, but they let Microsoft go first.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, everybody hates that, so we're not doing that. They probably did, 180s on a bunch of stuff. I thought, as spooky as it was, it probably would be awesome once, the first, tremors kind of settled down, but...
Well, look, you make a great point, right? Nobody worries about iTunes that way, but iTunes is that.
Right.
You are always online because it is always checking that you are you and that you had the right account.
Yeah.
When I made GameTap for Turner, we specifically, part of the security model was that you had to have the subscription. It's what HBO does, right? If it checks, if you aren't current on your bill, and the cable operator is going to shut down the services you have. So it's a model we're all used to. We just weren't, as a gamer, we just weren't used to it being that way. So yes, absolutely, it's going to move that way. Steam is that way.
Right.
It's just that Microsoft, in its blundering methodologies, just freaked everybody out, rather than just do it and not do it so drastically that you freak everybody out. Just naturally grow into it, and people will accept it.
Yep.
So I got a question. How do you see, with the advance of better tools, better distribution channels that provide the long tail, like music, okay? And by the way, to use a comparison to the music industry, in the early 70s, we saw the advent of the singer-songwriter. People said, screw you, I'm not going to give you 10 cents to write a song. I'm going to perform it myself, and do it myself, okay? I see people eventually refusing to create, because by the way, I've already done this is why, okay? I refuse to create original IP for somebody else. without at least having a percentage of whatever that ever is going to make. I don't draw characters, but if I was an artist, I wouldn't draw a character for somebody. I don't write code. I won't create a design idea for somebody else unless I see absolutely no future. It's not game related or something. But I don't want to give away my ideas and my sweat equity anymore. And I see this model we're pushing to that would push more people to do that.
Yeah.
And that means eventually down the road, we'll get more of a skew, I think, just like the movie industry, right? You still have your blockbusters, your huge movies, and people are on the credits, but they don't all get a percentage point of the profits. But they actually get paid much better than, for instance, we do to live this sort of strange lifestyle and so forth. And I'm not talking about the stars. I'm talking about like a lead technical director. They're making much more than I would make as a technical director on a game. Okay, I think down the road that has to happen if we're going to still support the blockbusters. Because there's going to be too many people just doing it themselves, like the singer-songwriter, wanting to keep their IP because they know that even 10 years down the road, hell, enough people like their game 10 years down the road, they'll do another Kickstarter or whatever Kickstarter's called that and say, hey, I want to resurrect Leisure Suit Larry.
But you know what, it's funny, and it's never an either or. Having grown up in the 60s and then getting into the music industry, the music industry created
You were in the music industry?
Yeah, way back in the day.
You gotta hear that sometime.
So we were all in our garages playing, working, spending all that sweat, blood, and tears to be enslaved into a record label that would then decide which 1% of us would actually make it, put the money behind it, and it was a machine, it wasn't a factory. But the thing is that the money was there in the industry. The games industry is the same thing. Right now, the iPhone has created this vision where kids are in their garage, I'm going to be the next Angry Birds, I'm going to be the next, whatever. And so it just serves to create this big pool of content, but at the end of the day, you still need somebody with money to come in to raise it above the din. Now, there's a few instances where that, they're just these monumental hits, like my Big Fat Greek Wedding, I think it was like some low budget, and it just made a ton of money. So those things can happen, but people win the lottery too. You can't work your life around that aspect of it. So the evil side of the iPhone and all this, there's a book by Clay Shirky called Here Comes Everybody, where anybody can create something. My wife's a photographer. It's like, how does she survive in this world anymore? People don't really care.
My daughter wants to be one, and I'm like, baby, you may be good 20, 30 years ago. You could have been. My father was a photographer. I mean, he's in his 70s now, but now everybody thinks they're a photographer.
Exactly. I mean, the price of gaming right now is free to 99 cents. I mean, that's how much I pay for my gaming. So how much money is really there? That's why the guys are going after the AAA titles, because, I mean, okay, $1 billion in 3 days for GTA 5. Now, you had to invest $250 million to get there. Or, somebody in a garage that will maybe average about $10,000 on the life of their iOS game. Where's the best? So nothing, I mean, the cynic in me basically says nothing ever changes. It's all the same. It's just a different face on the same situation, and it's all exciting to go through these changes. But
okay, before we leave this topic, there's the notion of what I call the gulag, okay? And I've heard it first from, I think, Harlan Ellison talking about comic book writers. Okay? And comic books have changed now that the comic book writer is actually on the cover, which never happened before. Right. And again, singer-songwriter, same thing. Every medium seems to go through this to a degree. And every medium, by the way, I'm going to throw this out too, every medium starts with porn. Just to let you know. Check it out historically, but that's what funds every medium, and then you go forward. Okay? But his argument is the people that provide the IP, have to break the shackles, like, again, the singer-songwriter, the comic book writer, and get themselves the better deal. They have to become the product. Now, movies, by the way, went from a studio system where the stars really realize they're the product, so that they can now break the shackles. And that happened the most dramatically, I think, in movies. We have so few stars, rock stars, in the gaming business. But we do have a few. And I think down the road we'll eventually have, again, once you can create a product, you say these little projects for 10,000. Once you get the medium people in that can actually do, like I said, like a whole album themselves in the music business, right? And it's truly a mature product, not just some guy,
Right.
you know, in the band, right? They're going to develop a name that sells the next product, the next product, the next product, once they get their name on the product. I mean, I'm actually puzzled by Joe because of that. I mean, I wanted my name in the title and
Right.
so forth. I'm not sure I'll ever get there in my lifetime, but I'm hoping the gulag happens. But we don't have a union. There's so many things we don't have that some of the other industries have. But that's what I see coming down the road, even though, man, I 20, 30, 50 years off, where people will just refuse to create content that's not their own.
But it's happening now, right? I mean, every iOS game, not every iOS game, but you know, a large majority of iOS games are all created by people that have a vision and a desire that they're going to be the next fill in the blank, right? So
Right.
What's the gaming industry's equivalent to Sundance Institute? If you're talking about sort of a
Indiecade,
dual,
yeah, I think
Indiecade.
what's it
Indiecade,
called?
a good Indiecade.
Casual Connect, sort of.
Yeah, Casual
which is
Connect's
part of
good.
Indiecade. I mean,
PAX
Now,
is getting some
PAX is
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah.
Sure.
PAX is a slightly different.
And it's an
Yeah,
ecosystem.
I know about a lot of
Sundance
that.
today instead of
Indian
Sundance 20 years
stuff
ago.
from
Right.
film.
I mean, the game
Sorry.
industry is an ecosystem, just like the film industry is an ecosystem, and you have to have all of these players to have a healthy ecosystem. I think as we talked about, you know, the destruction of the game industry as we know it, I mean, it started off as a packaged good product. That's the real destruction, right? That is going away.
Right.
I mean, I
Brick and
don't
mortar's
think
gone.
there's going to be, you know, retail presence much
Correct.
longer for
Yeah, gone.
games.
Josh.
Actually, I was just gonna ask a question of clarification, really, to the point that you're talking about. Are you talking more of, say, designers putting their name on it and kind of creating more of an ownership of the product they work on as individuals?
Correct.
Are you talking about, say, maybe if you hire on, their contract work drives this industry now. Are you saying more of, say, a royalty payment thing where you do attain ownership or a one-off? Going to that sort of system as opposed to now, like I have friends that are contract workers in the industry and you work for us for 2 years, this is your payment, at the end, you're
Yeah.
gone. And they get their paycheck and then they have their name on the game, but they retain, as far as financially, they retain no ownership. Are you saying moving to more of a lifelong ownership of that
Right.
project?
People. Okay. So, and again, comics is an interesting thing in that they have had characters for 70 years. Okay. So nobody can own the characters anymore. However, if you come and create a character, like Todd McFarlane for Spawn, you know, they want to own it. And in comics, for instance, Image was 3 or 4 of these heavyweights that went off and said, "Screw this," and it's creator-owned content.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's proven viable enough, even though they're still just DC and Marvel and everybody absorbs everybody else. But the notion of you now just don't buy a Spider-Man comic, you buy a Bendis. You know, you care that Michael Bendis, you know, wrote it.
Yeah, but can you see anybody introducing a new character, I mean, into the comic book universe? I mean, I'm sure someone's out there trying, but it is, I mean...
Yes, but they don't necessarily own it.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily own it. It is.
Well, let me give you an
There are
example.
people, but they do their own. They're actually creator-owned stuff too. That they go for Image is still around.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so I have 2 very close friends that have IP that they didn't start off owning, but they made sure they got back. So it's Rand Miller, who owns Myst,
okay,
and Lorne Lanning, who owns Oddworld.
okay.
And I mean, I respect those properties like, I mean, I
Oh,
hold
right,
them up
right,
here,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Oddworld's
all-
the farting game. Is that the one?
Yeah, it has farting in it, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's Abe and...
Yeah, yeah,
and,
Abe, right,
and
right,
Lunch.
right, right.
So, and, you know, Stranger's Wrath, which was a side story off of the Oddworld universe, is one of my son's favorite games. But Lorne is now just basically doing digital remakes of these games. And same with Rand, he's making them for the iPhone and the iPad. But they haven't been able to get funding to or raise the money to do what they really need to do, because they're not inexpensive games to make. So my thought is, if these guys can't get money and they own the IP, and the best they can do is just, and I mean, they're making okay livings off of the royalties that they get, and yes, because they own the IP, they can. Otherwise, those properties would have disappeared forever, and we wouldn't see these new remakes and it being introduced to an audience. But even at that level, it's really hard to get new game concepts or things that aren't a part of the franchise system into the pipeline. And I don't see that changing with any technology. It's just a crapshoot onto the value of the properties that you create, unfortunately.
Are there big indie game online marketplaces? What's the biggest?
There's an
That's
indie
what's
fund,
scary.
which
Yeah.
an indie fund that was started by, I think, Jonathan Blow and a couple other people did that. But it's not a lot of money. I mean, don't discourage them. I think it was a really noble effort to put some money back in and see
What was the guy's,
the
what's the guy's name? that did it?
Jonathan Blow is Braid,
Oh,
Right.
and the woman who
But
did
they become another
Journey,
great
right?
filter. That's what they do.
I forget the name of the girl that this game company, that game
Yeah,
company.
that game company is another huge proponent of the indies.
But I mean, is there a place online where, let's say, I want to try out a ton of really cool new indie games?
Amazon started an indie
Okay.
channel with their game stuff, and of course Xbox with Xbox Live and Xbox Live Arcade, they have an indie area.
Yep.
Indiecade is.
But Amazon, you could just go there and put your game up. Xbox Live, they
Right,
have.
there's no pre-filters, and this is my
That-
problem
that's
with the
sort of my
the
question.
indie
How do-
fund
how do
still
they
has
get out
pre-filters that pick and choose. I am totally worried, I'm gonna answer this I'm totally worried because my main market distributor is Big Fish Games, who owns the hidden object market.
Oh.
However, they're shrinking, and there is no aggregator. Okay, they have what I call a bare minimum. They are not really a pre-filter. If you are full screen, there's so few people hitting that market
Yeah.
that if you're full screen, you have a deep enough game, 4 hours or whatever, etc., they'll allow you on it. Whether you're an old ball match, you don't have to look that great, but they want content. They want a game a day.
Yeah.
Okay? When they hit below that game a day, they're going to be in trouble, but they only really push, from a marketing standpoint, the AAA HOG games. But you can at least go out there, put your game, and if it has a conversion rate, you'll survive, which I can't guarantee I'll get seen anywhere
But see,
else.
they are in trouble, and they
Yeah.
will continue to be in trouble because of the medium they went after. They cornered the web browser game market. Even
Well, there's
though
no
they're
browser
down.
games there.
I
but
understand
yeah,
that, but that's where they captured their
Correct.
audience,
and
right?
that's going away.
And that's going away because it's easier to do it on the go, on the phone.
But
on
there's
the
no
tablet.
aggregators yet like them on the phone. There's only the mega, again,
That's
the
right. Well,
iSmart-
Apple is, and they've made sure they stayed that way, because you can't do an aggregation service, and believe me, I've tried, for the iPhone. You can do it for Android,
Right.
right?
That's what
and
I'm saying,
good.
asking about, right? An aggregation service?
How do they prevent that? Just a curious question. You know, because iTunes, I can definitely buy music from somebody else.
Right.
So how do they prevent somebody?
You can't have a store within a store. You won't get your application approved if it's a store within a store, other than what they've allowed to happen, which is now newspapers and magazines and stuff like that. Subscription-based stuff.
Yeah,
You
and
can-
that's
you can-
because they have proprietary apps that support that.
That's right. But it's also, they don't care. They see the app market. They are the app aggregator. They are the games aggregator. And they're going to grow their, the game center. They're going to move it over onto Apple TV. They want to have, the games everywhere. They want to be the games aggregator. I mean, they are.
Yeah.
I think it's a self-defeating industry when you look at it from an indie perspective, because when you're looking for a resource that, I want to play a bunch of indie games, and I just want to see what everyone is doing.
Yeah.
In order to have that broadcast, you need money.
Right.
And in order to have money, you need to be a big market. Well, if you're already a big company with big money and you want to be the aggregator, you're going to have pre-filters. Because they're in the industry of making money. They're not in the industry of showing
With
all
digital
games.
though,
Right.
my argument with digital is you don't need as much pre-filters. For instance,
Right.
But you do.
there's Game
Right.
House that still has the pre-filter that'll look at my game and go too ugly. And I'll go, hey, I'm getting 10% converted. But they go, no,
Yeah,
they're pre-filled. They're losing money.
right.
But the
Okay,
only way to be
yeah.
a good aggregator is
Yeah.
to be decisive about what it is to curate, right? Because if you just have a bunch of crap in there, like Ouya, I'm sorry, Ouya has a bunch of crap, and it's turned a lot of people off because it's just, there's nothing good.
And there's
Right.
no
Nothing
nonprofit
original.
Right.
aggregator at this
Okay.
point.
Well,
But I guess the
Steam
difference
does
is
it
that a
somewhat.
minimum, what I call a minimum bar
The
aggregator as opposed,
Yeah.
again, it's a small
I'll say.
enough market that
Mhm.
it seems Game House should be taking just about everybody that at least meets, again, their minimum requirements. And what I mean is a full screen, there's nobody's being stabbed, that kind of stuff. Not, oh, we didn't think your game was fun, kind of a thing.
It's more of a checklist though. Does it have
Correct.
this? Then we're
Correct.
good. Steam does this. From a business perspective, Steam does this beautifully. As a game designer perspective, I'm not completely sold, but they have a Project Greenlight.
Yeah, I know
Section,
about
yeah.
that, and that just
Yeah.
pushes the marketing there before
Right,
you've
but,
created a
but
product.
they get to pick which ones they think are worth the thing, and they do have some community involvement in that process. But really, in the infrastructure of that idea, it's really Steam going. These can make more money than these other ones. So you can put your game on Steam, and you can definitely find it on Steam.
Mhm.
But they're going to feature the ones that they think are going to
Sure,
be best. So
right.
you
I don't
have
think
the
you can even
resource.
put your game on Steam, can you?
Well, you can apply.
No,
Yeah,
you
you
can
can
just
get
apply
Greenlight,
for
you have to go through
Yeah.
you get
Greenlight.
onto
Yeah.
Greenlight, and
Yeah.
then if enough people like
Right,
the
exactly.
game
It's the
on
free market.
Greenlight,
The
it
whole
goes
reason I'm
onto
on Big
Steam.
Fish is that you play it for an hour, then you decide whether you buy it or not.
Right.
And they put all the new people on the front, so I actually get seen. I know 100,000 eyeballs free. I didn't do anything. I didn't have to do marketing, PR, etc., etc. All I have to do is write a game that's fun, that not necessarily everybody who looks at it, especially pre-filter types, would go, "Oh yeah, I get that. That's going to be
But
great."
you
the
have a
downside
good, you
is
have a
that
good
that's
model. 'cause
dwindling.
Yeah, but it's
we-
shrinking,
We
man.
talked, yeah, it is shrinking, I know.
Yeah.
But but you're not, you're able to make a living off of what you do, right?
So far.
Yeah, see, that's a wonderful model. I mean, my brother-in-law is a musician in France, and I was not able to make a living off it, but he can survive. So that's a good thing. And this type of market can make that if you're savvy. You've got a very good business mind on you. Most of the game developers out there are still like the kids in the garage, thinking they're going to become Bruce Springsteen, and not just be satisfied with, I got to do this so that I can make enough money. Input and
I have
output
a
have
commodity
to.
mindset. I'm not necessarily programming the greatest game for me, which is what I think all the garage kids nest.
Yeah.
I'm trying to create a game specifically to hit a market,
That's right.
and trying to create a commodity model that might make me survive the dark and dreary times coming, and hold everything in place.
So I actually have a question. All right, I'll just start talking.
Go for it.
I have a question for you guys just to kind of move along. Especially when we're talking about the indie stuff and getting your market out there, or getting your
Takes
game
some
out there and
lessons.
marketing and that sort of stuff. We're seeing a lot more, like, I think it started, the big push of it was with Kickstarter because it is a community building thing, not just funds. You start seeing more grassroots type marketing campaigns for these smaller budget games. Like, I'm currently in development of an indie game, and I'm at the point where I'm beginning a marketing strategy. And really, I don't have a lot of money, so I'm having to do that. I'm seeing it more present in mobile games and stuff. You start seeing Facebook marketing, big things like that. Push for viral kind of things. Clash of Clans does it. They push Facebook really hard. Do you think that's going to continue to grow as a main source of marketing? In which case, the big marketers, the big publishers are going to somewhat start to feel a little obsolete? And then maybe not, because right now they have a very tight grip on the majority of the market, the publishers do, and not so much power in the development side. Do you think that's going to start to shift because everything is so accessible now?
How much do you look at those flyers that come in the mail?
Not at all.
Not at all.
It's noise,
Yeah.
right? And if Facebook and all that stuff, it's good now, and there's things, but eventually it becomes the bulk mail noise that we all have learned to avoid, right? And so ultimately, at the end of the day, with all the opportunities that there are, you got to follow the money, and you got to find something that makes you unique to get in front of people in a way that will resonate. That might be the IP, it might be knowing exactly where the sweet spot is, and it might not be the greatest IP in the world, but you're creating you're a product for a need, or it's just it's
And
just you
Kickstarter's
got a
going to
lot
die
of money.
too for certain types of projects. Kickstarter, we heard on another thing that for instance, I won't give any more to anybody who's these people that actually do a Kickstarter campaign that asks for $15,000 or $20,000 to do something. I'm like, why don't you take that effort that you did to make your Kickstarter page and finish your freaking game?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and
If
then
we're not
try to get it
80%
done.
through or done with production,
You know, it's
just
just-
don't do Kickstarter.
Well,
Yeah, and as more and more people try to get at the low end of Kickstarter, it become totally irrelevant at that side. And then all the quote, the story people, hey, I'm resurrecting Leisure Suit Larry. They got a great story. They can generate the PR. It's just marketing ahead of time. And if you don't have the story, you know, you're in trouble.
to be honest with you, with Kickstarter, I will no longer kickstart any digital product whatsoever, simply because
Until I do a Kickstarter.
absolutely right. You're going to be the one who breaks me back in. But, I had an addiction to Kickstarter. I would kickstart anything under the freaking sun. I have kickstarted 6 or 7 different digital products. You know how many I've seen?
Right.
You know how long it's been since I kickstarted that first project? I think like 2 years now. So,
That one's almost done though.
no, it's not.
Are
No.
you not talking about,
I'm talking Double Fine Adventures.
no, not the rocket one?
No. No. Look,
That falls on the developer.
absolutely, it does.
And the strategy of Kickstarting.
Well-
People will misunderstand the reason.
Right, they think that they're going to make money off the Kickstarter, and that's never going to be the thing. But to go into your marketing thing, to actually have a marketing campaign is a huge step in the right direction. Where some indies think, you know, my work will speak for itself. You know, I'll say the good idea, and then people will throw money at me. That will never work. First of all, no, unless you've got a big name, it's not going to work. Now, if let's say you're asking, you know, if the marketing strategy changes, if you know big names like the singer-songwriter starts, you know, he starts trying to go through other channels. There was someone who started like cutting Ticketmaster out, and that did not work. So you got to be very, very careful. But if enough people have a way to kind of circumnavigate the publishers, then yeah, the publishers will change. But there's not going to be a threat that size for a while, unless, you know, I don't know, Will Wright and Sid Meier and everybody like,
Names.
yeah, the big names. You know, they all come together and go, and this is how we're going to do it. But, you know, that's not going to happen for a while.
Right.
At very minimum. So anyways, we have reached the end, so I apologize that we probably did not hit all the topics. But
Was Blake in actually Blood, Sweat, and Tears? Was that a little
Oh,
little drunk? No, I'm just kidding. I assume you weren't, right?
but thank you for coming to the panel. Like I said, I'm Charlie Hawkins. I'm from Alter Confusion. You can check out this video and many other videos that I'm going to be editing and posting on my website. I also have a YouTube channel to check it out. And of course, if you are an independent developer and you're looking for someone to, right now, I'm doing it for free. Extreme, like ball-busting QA testing. I'll do it and I will write up a nice detailed thing. Until everybody starts knocking on my door, and then I'm going to have to charge. And then also, I do review independent games. They are more important to me than any AAA title out there, because I know that there's a shit ton of people out there who are going to be reviewing those games anyways, and there may not be that many people out there who are reviewing your game. And so I want to help give y'all a voice, at bare minimum, that you can at least put on your application page to say, oh, I got an 8.5 out of 10. And then at bare minimum, someone goes, well, who the hell is Alter Confusion? They can check me out and, you know,
Sure.
high five.
Both ways.
So anyways, thank you. And hopefully I get to see a lot more of you on the website or at future conventions.
Thanks, guys.